Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to an Angry Alien update, a very brief bulletin that I want to bring you about the so-called Eglin UAP that I reported on just a couple of weeks ago. And apparently this whole case was resolved by the Pentagon on October 14th of 2023, but the situation was not released for open publication until April 18th of 2024, although interestingly enough, it didn't appear on AARO's website until a couple of days ago. Seems to take the Pentagon a while to get all this information out to us, but nonetheless, here's the information that was given to us, and just so you know, I think that the Pentagon did a pretty good job on this analysis. Quote, on January 26, 2023, a military pilot reported 4 potential unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, while operating in the Eglin Air Force Base training range off the coast of Florida. Through the onboard radar system, the pilot initially observed that the 4 objects were aloft between 16 and 18,000 feet and appeared to be flying in formation. However, the pilot observed only one of the 4 objects visually and captured 2 images of the single object via the aircraft's electro-optical infrared sensor, or EOIR. The pilot could not record video of the event because the aircraft's video recording equipment was inoperable prior to and during the aircraft's flight. The pilot observed this single object aloft at 16,000 feet. The following case information is based on the pilot's initial report and a subsequent discussion that AARO held with the pilot to seek additional details about the pilot's observation of the reported object. Number 1, the pilot described the object as gray with a paneled surface and orange-red coloring at the center. The initial report did not provide the object's size and speed, but in the subsequent discussion with AARO, the pilot reported the object was about 12 feet in diameter and that it either moved very slowly or was potentially stationary. Secondly, in the initial report, the pilot described the bottom half of the object as being rounded and the top half as a rounded 3-dimensional cone shape similar to the shape of the Apollo spacecraft. The pilot visually perceived a heat signature emanating from the rounded bottom portion, which they described as blurry air. Thirdly, during AARO's discussion with the pilot stated that they thought they saw a vertically oriented engine affixed to the side of the object that was nearly the height of the object. This feature is not visible in the 2 still images taken by the sensor, and the pilot did not include this description in the initial report. AARO has no additional data to corroborate whether the object may have had an engine. Interesting, though, that this detail came later on, not with the initial report, which is something that's pretty common in these kinds of cases. Sometimes witnesses add additional details after the actual incident occurs, details that may not have actually been visible. Next, the pilot reported that upon closing to within 4,000 feet of the object, the radar on the aircraft malfunctioned and remained disabled for the remainder of the training exercise. Post-mission review determined that a circuit breaker had tripped. Technicians reported that same circuit breaker on this particular aircraft had tripped 3 times in the prior months, but technicians could not conclusively diagnose the cause of the fault for this incident. Based on the previous tripping of the circuit, AARO assesses the malfunction likely was not caused by or associated with the object. I agree with that assessment also, given that the radar had malfunctioned in precisely the same way on 3 different occasions. This seems to just be a coincidence. Very strange coincidence, but a coincidence nonetheless. Next, during the discussion with the pilot, they recounted that after the radar malfunctioned, the object descended into the cloud deck. There is no EOIR data for the other 3 reported objects initially observed on radar. Therefore, AARO could not analyze those reported objects. Now, this is the only detail that I find to be a bit odd about this, and I'm going to tell you about why I find that strange a little later on. So here's AARO's findings. Arrow assesses that the reported UAP was very likely an ordinary object and not exhibiting anomalous or exceptional characteristics or flight behaviors. Arrow has moderate confidence in this assessment due to the limited data provided. Arrow assesses the object was a lighter than air object, such as a large form factor balloon, a meteorological balloon, a large mylar balloon, or a large commercial outdoor helium-filled lighting balloon. Arrow has moderate confidence in this identification of the object. Arrow bases this assessment on a thorough review of the data collected, official pilot accounts of the object's description and behavior, laboratory testing of a commercial lighting balloon determined to have similar physical characteristics to the object described in the pilot's report, a reconstruction of the flight geometry, and the sun angle at the time of the observation. No anomalous flight characteristics, behaviors, or capabilities were confirmed. Arrow assesses the circuit breaker trip that caused the radar to fail was coincidentally and likely due to a pre-existing undiagnosed technical problem with the system. The physical description of the UAP was generally consistent with an LTA object held aloft and carried by the wind. Its direction and reported slow speed are consistent with the wind direction and speed at the time and the altitude of the observation. The blurry air observation could have been a visual misperception due to environmental conditions and potentially resulted from a tether hanging below the LTA object or motion-induced image blurring. Although the pilot described the object as uniformly gray in the visible spectrum, it appears uniformly black from the viewing angle in the image. The magnified infrared image shows the object had a strong contrasting signature in the infrared spectrum. This contrast suggests either a temperature emissivity difference or a reflectivity difference between its two hemispheres. Arrow identified a commercial lighting balloon, which is a close visual match to the object in the zoomed-in infrared image. Commercial helium balloons such as these are often large and available in many shapes, including ellipses, spheres, and cylinders, and are used for outdoor lighting at special events, construction sites, and movie sets. Although these balloons are available in solid colors, some models have distinct black and white hemispheres. The upper black hemisphere is lined with reflective material to direct the light downward through the white hemisphere. Arrow conducted extensive testing using one of these balloons and found that it could replicate some aspects of the pilot's account. The balloon's hemispheres have seams resembling the ribbed fabric panels of an umbrella, which an observer could perceive as paneling. These balloons are publicly available to rent or buy. Although the balloons are powered by corded alternating current, during its testing, Arrow determined that they can be converted to direct current or AC battery power. Beyond these commercial lighting balloons, the object's description correlates with any large form balloon that might be made of two different materials or the same material of different colors with distinct infrared reflective or emissive properties. It is also plausible that the sun angle at the time of day of the event, when plotted with the EO/IR sensor's viewing angle, illuminated the bottom half of the balloon from the pilot's perspective, while the top would appear dark, shaded, and cold. Due to the angle of the sun and the altitude of the object, a meteorological or mylar balloon likely would also present in a similar fashion to an EO or IR image. The highly reflective surface of a mylar balloon in infrared would exaggerate the perceived illumination effect. Arrow submitted the case for review to an intelligence community component and a science and technology partner. These two partners independently reached high confidence assessments that the object did not exhibit anomalous characteristics or behaviors and therefore was an ordinary object. Both partners independently determined that the object was likely some form of balloon. Now, I am very impressed with the thoroughness of AARO's analysis of this whole case. I think that they've come to a very reasonable conclusion based on the evidence and based on a great deal of work that they've invested in this case to see whether or not it really is an unexplained incident. And one might think that given how this incident has been debunked now, I would be disappointed, that I would feel that perhaps I'm misguided in thinking that UAPs have some sort of extraterrestrial origin, but you'd be wrong, because given how thorough AARO was about this analysis, this particular footage that you're looking at right now, which AARO still regards as being unexplained over the Middle East, we're still not 100% certain as to where this incident took place, in spite of lots of independent observers who think that they found the location, but regardless, this footage has yet to be debunked, and probably for very good reason. The object in this footage is not exhibiting the type of behavior that would be consistent with a Mylar balloon. If it was, the Pentagon would have figured this case out long ago. We must conclude that the object is not traveling within the wind. It may be traveling directly against the wind and traveling in a manner that is not consistent with an ordinary object, at least not an ordinary spherical object. And again, according to AARO, these sorts of objects are being spotted all over the world, not just in this one piece of footage. And then the more famous UAP footage that was gathered in the gun cameras of a wide variety of aircraft, mostly over the Pacific, but some over the Atlantic as well. Well, all of these cases remain unexplained too. And these were UAPs that were tracked on radar, were tracked by IR sensors, were tracked pretty much in all the same ways that the Elgin incident was tracked. However, the difference is the Pentagon can't explain what these objects were. They are exhibiting behavior that is not consistent with ordinary objects, and in spite of many years of analysis, the Pentagon remains completely stumped. And again, after having a chance to check out AARO's work firsthand, to actually see how thorough they really are when they investigate these cases, to me, this adds a lot more validity to the cases that remain unexplained. My first Patreon exclusive video is coming out tomorrow, once again about farming on Mars and how we could utilize Mars' natural resources to support a large colony in the future. If this is something you're interested in, feel free to join our growing Patreon community. You can do it for as little as 10 cents a day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, stay angry about space.
Fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.